The biggest megaproject of the century has started. China is changing the world of logistics with the Belt and Road Initiative, better known as the New Silk Road Project. It is a reference to the ancient merchant route known as the Silk Road, which emerged about 2,000 years ago, as the demand for Chinese silk increased in the West. This valuable fabric originated in China, which initially had a monopoly on silk production until the secrets of its creation spread. In addition to silk, the route facilitated the trade of other items of value. From the former Chinese capital Xi'an, merchants traveled through Central Asia to reach the cities of Middle East and Southern Europe to trade goods. In 2013, China announced plans to revive the Silk Route, connecting it with more than 60 countries in Asia, Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. This new Silk Road project is considered to be one of the largest infrastructural developments of the world, and its estimated cost is a massive $4 trillion. Chinese President Xi Jinping officially launched the vision of a new Silk Road during his visits to Kazakhstan and Indonesia in 2013. According to him, the project will drastically increase the connectivity in the world. It is attempting to redraw ancient trade networks, crafting them to its 21st century economic and strategic goals. This economic diplomacy, larger than Truman's Marshall Plan, will attempt to state China's regional leadership, strengthen its economic ascent, and kindle a new era of globalization. While some countries, especially the United States, view the project critically because of possible Chinese influence, others point to the creation of a new global growth engine by connecting and moving countries closer together. Under the New Silk Road Initiative, construction projects in more than 65 countries are planned or already taking place, and China has closed 173 deals with more than 120 countries as well as 29 international organizations. As more and more countries are participating, the project continues to grow, and the total extent of the New Silk Road is still to be seen. The project is estimated to be completed in 2049, on the 100th anniversary of the People's Republic of China. Once complete, this ambitious megaproject will span across at least 3 continents, involving more than 65% of the world's population and 40% of the global gross domestic product. The New Silk Route has 2 main parts: the Overland Silk Road Economic Belt and the Maritime Silk Road. The Overland Route includes countries on the original Silk Road through Central Asia, West Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. The initiative would create a cohesive economic area by building both hard infrastructure such as rail and road links, and soft infrastructure such as trade agreements, and a common commercial legal structure with a court system to police the agreements. 3 belts have been proposed. The North Belt goes through Central Asia and Russia to Europe. The Central Belt passes through Central Asia and West Asia to the Persian Gulf and the Mediterranean. The South Belt runs from China through Southeast Asia and South Asia, and onto the Indian Ocean through Pakistan. The Maritime Silk Route is a complementary initiative aimed at investing and fostering collaboration in Southeast Asia, Oceania, and Africa through several contiguous bodies of water such as the South China Sea, the South Pacific Ocean, and the wider Indian Ocean area. The route runs with its links from the Chinese coast to the south, covering all Southeast Asian countries. From the Strait of Malacca to Colombo, Sri Lanka, the route will reach the tip of India as well as the Maldives. From there it will reach East Africa, then through the Red Sea over the Suez Canal into the Mediterranean, it will reach the ports of Italy. It will further stretch to cover the waters in Central Europe and finally the North Sea. In addition to the Overland Route and the Maritime Route, Russia and China are reported to have agreed to jointly build an ice silk road along the Northern Sea route in the Arctic, on the Maritime Route within Russian territorial waters. Before we continue, make sure to like this video and subscribe to this channel for more interesting videos. Africa is an economically important area to China due to availability of raw materials. As part of its Silk Road strategy, Chinese investments of $60 billion for Africa was announced in September 2018. In Kenya's port of Mombasa, China has built a rail and road connection to the capital Nairobi. To the northeast of Mombasa, a large port and an adjacent industrial area including infrastructure with new traffic corridors to South Sudan and Ethiopia is being built. A modern deep-water port, a satellite city, an airfield, and an industrial area are being built in Bagamoyo, Tanzania. In several countries such as Zambia, Ethiopia, and Ghana, dams have been built with Chinese help. In Nairobi, China is funding the construction of the tallest building in Africa, the Pinnacle Towers. In Europe, China wants to continue investing in Portugal with its deep-water port and signs, but especially in Trieste, Italy. The International Free Zone of Trieste provides in particular special areas for storage, handling, and processing as well as transit zones for goods. For this reason, Trieste is crucial for forming links between countries, which is important for the Silk Road. There are also extensive intra-European infrastructure projects happening within the Chinese Silk Road project. These include the expansion of the Belgrade-Budapest railway line, the construction of the high-speed train between Milan, Venice, and Trieste, as well as industrial projects in many Eastern European countries. In addition, the Silk Road Initiative will oversee several more infrastructure projects spanning across many countries. This includes roads in Kazakhstan, ports in Pakistan and Sri Lanka, an industrial park for high-tech business in Belarus, energy projects and pipelines through Central Asia, and railways in Iran and East Africa. In 2013, both the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank and the $40 billion Silk Road Fund were launched and are central to financing projects and businesses across an umbrella of over 65 participating nations. The Silk Road Fund would invest in businesses rather than lend money to the projects. The Karo Hydropower Project, 50 kilometers from Islamabad, Pakistan, is the first project under this fund. The Chinese government has promised to provide Pakistan with at least $350 million by 2030 to finance this station. Nevertheless, the large majority of the Silk Road infrastructure projects have been funded by Chinese policy banks and large Chinese state-owned banks so far. The financing or projects are done through bilateral agreements between these lending banks and recipient governments, and oftentimes these loans are unsustainable to many developing nations. China uses the debt to gain leverage over these fragile governments, thereby implementing debt trap diplomacy. This accusation was sparked by projects such as the Hambantota port development in Sri Lanka. The Sri Lankan government was unable to service the Chinese loans which funded the project, and the port was handed to the Chinese on a 99-year lease in 2017. A similar situation is reported from the African region. The continent owes an estimated $145 billion to China, much of which involves Silk Road projects, and has defaulted on the debt owing to extreme poverty. The Belt and Road Initiative is still a vague concept which lacks strictly defined parameters. Beijing has stated that it is open to any country. This includes the US. The one official map which was produced of the initiative was withdrawn and its timespan is not known, but it is certainly long-term, requiring over 30 years for full implementation. What is unfolding is the world's largest development project, already covering more than 65% of global population. Over the coming decade, it is only likely to grow in scope. It is not yet clear if China's leadership is intending for foreign policy to follow economic and trade opportunities, or if this is a geo-economic strategy where shorter-term commercial goals will feed into China's long-term strategic imperatives. This is one of the many questions we hope to gauge as we travel the length of this very exciting development. What are your thoughts on this megaproject? Leave a comment below and let us know. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.